Hey novice traders, welcome back to the channel where we've just started a new series where I document how I trade each and every week. You guys are going to love this series because let's be honest, we've all done courses, we've all read books, we can all regurgitate the same knowledge that we've learnt along the way, but when it comes to executing, it is so much tougher. And this week for us was a very good example of this, and I think there's a lot of value in this video for you guys to absorb. So let's get straight into it. Before we get into the video though, guys, I do want to let you know that we are doing a giveaway on the channel if you're new here. So basically we're giving away Al Brooks' trading course on price action, as well as Anna Cooling's book on volume price analysis when we hit 1,000 subs on the channel. All you have to do to enter the draw is leave a like, share the video, and leave a comment based on, your trading journey so far. Basically anything really. I just love connecting with you guys, and of course subscribe to the channel. So make sure you do that to go on the draw. So on the second week, we started with about $993.37, and we actually ended the week down at $876.47. So it was a bit of a tough week. I think this losing week could have definitely been avoidable. So let's just jump straight into the week. As you can see here, we'll kind of go overview of where we're sitting at on the account in terms of the stats up here. So we can see average loss to win ratio is 1.58. Then we've got the daily win, which is 50%. Profit factor is obviously below 1 now because we are not profitable overall in the account. And the trade win ratio is 37.84%. And as you can see, we are now down in the account of about $43.48. So if we actually have a look in terms of percentages, we're currently down 12.71%, and over the account we're 4.73%. Now I'm pretty devastated about this. Obviously as a novice trader, I'm still not quite used to the losses, but the one reason why I'm also a little bit disappointed about it is simply because our winning week was only 7.98% and our losing week was much higher than that. So for me, if I wanted to see kind of a profitable strategy, I would want my losing weeks to stay smaller than my winning weeks. So let's jump into the week and just actually look at day to day on how everything went down. So on the first day being Monday, I was still very nervous because it's kind of like the first step towards seeing what the results will look like for the week. And I'm still very nervous about showing everything on camera to everyone out there. It is a huge thing for me to do. So yeah, I basically discussed here, I was very tired for this session. I went to bed very late the prior night. I ate fruit, but that didn't really seem to help me because of how tired I was. I was feeling slightly anxious prior to the session, was not in the best mental state, found it hard to focus. I think coming off a weekend, I tend to do that because, I've took a break over the weekend. I can be in a little bit more of a relaxed mindset, or I've been, watching shows and haven't really been in that disciplined mindset. I think if I carry that through my weekends a little bit more, I should find a bit of an improvement there. And just getting myself ready for the week a little bit earlier. I shouldn't have had a late night, which again always comes down to kind of performance, and it does show in the stats for this day as well. Now the second day, I made sure I went to bed on time. I was in a much better headspace, and basically I said I was really good on this day. I had enough sleep, I exercised in the morning, and I ate really well, healthy, with eating fruit right before the session. I felt focused, flexible when approaching each trade. I didn't feel like I was holding too much of a bias on either side during this session, and I was really impressed with just how I was feeling when I was approaching the chart. I didn't have much anxiety. I was very calm. I had a very different demeanor, and it shows in the results, and it shows in even like my entries and my exits. They were so spot on. Even when it came to reading the tape, I feel like I was so focused and was able to really read what was going on and feel in tune. And not saying that I didn't make mistakes on this day either. I make mistakes. I'm still a novice trader, but the mistakes were different, and if I did make a mistake, I was able to fix it and correct it rather than just have a losing trade, and kind of manage those trades that might not have been as good of a trade the correct way, because I was flexible and because I wasn't so focused on the money and all of those things, right? I'm really excited to go through some of these trades with you because I think you guys will really enjoy how that day went down. So Wednesday was a slightly different day. I didn't actually have a daily journal on this day because it was very much like I just wasn't feeling anything towards the day. I had one good trade at the beginning, although I did enter very late because I kind of missed the entry. So you can actually see here where I entered here. Obviously this is where the trade should have been, but I didn't get to the chart till about here where it was about 6:10, 6:12. So because of that, I exited quite late and didn't capitalize on this trade as much as I could have. I felt like I was being a little bit more cautious when it came to losing because I knew I had such a big winning day. And I didn't want to jeopardize all the wins because I felt like I did that the week prior. And that's what I focused on. But Thursday is where everything went wrong. As you can see, that is a ridiculous amount of trades straight up. But not only that, the way I was trading was just terrible. So I even say here, a major lesson I have learned this week and even from last week as well is that it's important to know my mental limits and have self-control not to trade on those days. So all my life I've been pushing and almost having that grind mentality, right? You know, when you're doing your 9 to 5, you make sure you get up every day, you show up every day, and you're taught to just keep pushing. Even when it comes to physical exertion, you're always pushing and pushing and pushing and have that, I guess, toxic grind mentality. And this week was a big realization that that doesn't actually work in trading, right? It's almost expecting like a gold medalist sprinter to win a race with a broken ankle. Like it's just not going to work. And having the self-control and understanding that you were not in the right mental state to trade and to just not trade for the day and know that that will actually add to your growth rather than impact it is a huge lesson for me because I feel like I've always had that toxic grind mentality and that is going to change from this week. And I just want to actually, whilst we're on the topic, go back to last week because we had a huge losing day last week on Friday. And if you recognize, if we pop into the daily journal, I actually basically said I had a major bearish mindset for no good. I didn't focus much this session and was very tired. So many trades reflect this. There's a theme here. My biggest day is days where I'm tired and I'm not ready to perform. And as we can see this week as well, it was kind of closer to the end of the week. So in this coming week, so next week, we are going to be focusing so much on deciding not to trade. So I'm hoping that next week, when I come to the charts here, I'm going to see some empty days because I didn't feel as though I was in the right mental frame to be trading or anything like that. That is my aim. And the reason why I want to emphasize this so much and the importance of this so much is because coming to Friday, I noticed a massive impact on the day prior. And I hadn't noticed this during the day. I wasn't actually conscious of it until I started journaling my trades and kind of realizing the mentality I had. And as you can see on the daily journal, I wrote, I was feeling better this day in terms of my energy, but was holding a lot of anxiety about losing, especially because of the series I am doing on YouTube. So obviously I was having this feeling of losing and anxiety around it from my Thursday session. I did have a moment where I felt maybe I shouldn't trade. In my head before Friday's session, I really felt like maybe I just shouldn't trade today because I do feel that little bit of emotion attached to such a big loss on Thursday, but I really was hoping I could overcome that. But I think facing my fear of losing was better rather than being afraid to trade. So this is why trading can be quite hard as a novice trader because you're not actually trying to navigate the charts. You're trying to navigate yourself and your reactions because I didn't want to teach myself to avoid to trade when I was scared to enter because we will have losing weeks. I know that exists. We all know that. We've all read about it. We know that losing streaks occur. So I didn't want to teach my mind to just avoid it just because I am losing, because that's not the right way to do things. I make a note here, after journaling, I really feel the impact of the losing day seeping into the trading session and have realized I was eager to get trades in to make up for my losses. So when I went through my trades, I started to realize that I was taking not very good trades. So you've got the 50% markup just here on this orange line here. And I didn't even look at volume of this leg. The volume of this leg was dropping. So it wasn't a very strong up move. So there was no good reason for me to think that price was going to pull back and then continue, because the original leg wasn't very strong. But I wasn't looking at all aspects or taking all aspects into a lot of these trades. And it was because I was just wanting a trade to get that money back. And I didn't realize that impact until I journaled, because that was not the direct thought that I was having in my mind, or at least I didn't think that that was the direct thought that I was having. Unfortunately, this mentality made me very blind to a lot of aspects going into trading day. So another thing that I'll be focusing on next week is just making sure I'm taking all aspects into consideration when it comes to taking a trade, because I need to almost slow my mentality down to a point where it doesn't feel like this wild roller coaster that I'm on. And that's what I feel like I'm seeking at the moment, is just slowing down a little bit throughout my trading session, be okay with missing trades, and just take my time with my analysis. That was the overall week, and that's what got us the losing 12%. It had nothing to do with my analysis, and it had everything to do with my mental state throughout the week. And I just want to, again, talk about the importance of understanding why you should not trade some days, because it's not just that losing day that impacts you. The impacts are so much long lasting than that. It can cause you to have further losing days after that. And I feel like that's why people go through drawdowns and sometimes need to step away and reset. And honestly, these 2 days I should have. Number one best trade of the week was on Tuesday, of course, my best day of the week. And essentially I've said, obviously, trade setup, entry was based on a 5-minute 50%, exit was aiming at level towards the larger 50% move. Now, something that I've started to notice is if I'm aiming my target at a higher 50% move or discount level, I find the trade is more likely to work. I'm kind of seeing that, and I'm not too sure if that's just because it's a bigger, I guess, magnet for price. I'm not sure, but I'm seeing more success if I'm aiming my target at a larger level 50% move. Entry was very sniper. However, my ad could have waited to the pullback, which had a perfect 2-leg move with easy to read volume at the trend line. My exit was absolutely perfect. I really would not want to sit through that pullback, especially because of how steep it was coming off the level. So I kind of want to go through that a little bit in a sec, but I just want to go through emotions. I was very focused during this trade as I was aiming to get more out of my trades and sit through the pullback. So I felt pretty proud about myself in terms of sitting through pullbacks. And the lesson I've learned while sitting through pullbacks, I learned and got better at reading tape. So I was really focused on the tape this week, and I started finding some nuances on kind of how to know a little bit on a pullback and whether or not that's just the pullback or whether it possibly could be an actual reversal. And guys, if you want to see some videos on or about reading the tape, let me know. I really tried my best to actually have the tape reading in this, I guess, trade review, but unfortunately all the systems did not let me to kind of replay it. So I must need to record my trading sessions possibly. So if you are interested in seeing that, please leave a comment down below. But as you can see, understanding more how the tape reacts on pullbacks and allowing myself to be held into the trade with trend lines and new 50% pullback points. So I just want to kind of explain that a little bit. So again, let's look at this trade from, I guess, start to finish, right? So we had the 30-minute 50% up here. So we kind of had a bias of a long direction here. And then we had a nice move up and had increased volume at this point. So I've drawn up, as you can see, this whole move here. We had decent volume stepping in on the lower sides, which again, if you've read Anna Curling's book, you would understand that that is accumulation. So we had a decent move up basically. So I've done the 50% drawback point, which is obviously here. Now, as prices come down, we have a nice clear 2-legged point, and we've also started to get a trend line. So I've also got the trend line drawn here, and we've entered. Now I entered based on a tape read as well here. So something that I think I should get better at is entering and having possibly a tighter stop. Now I'm not too sure, that might not be the way to do things. and maybe it's just my mind wanting to make more out of my trading. Hopefully we'll see that evolution through this series, but the stop was down here, and the reason the stop was down here is because that was the last low that I could go off. So we had a low here, and that's why the stop was here. Now the entry was sniper. Like, look how low. That was almost the lowest point of the chart at that point. So that was really good. Now when I talk about adding, I added up here because it was holding above the 5-minute level here, when I think I probably should have waited until I saw some sort of pullback or some sort of retest rather than jumping in. And as you can see, we did get that pullback. So as you can see, what I mean by the pullback is you get that pullback, that push back up, and then that pull back down to the trend line. So I could have waited for this pullback to happen and read the tape, and I would have been able to enter the ad down here rather than up here. Now, some people may look at this and go, well, that's a really small difference. Maybe, but I think in trading, if you want to maximize your results, you have to focus on these things. So that's where I would have improved. Now, the exit was really, really good. Now, some people may look at this and go, well, you could have made X amount more because you were originally aiming possibly for a 50% up here. I don't necessarily aim for the higher time frame 50% pullback points. It's just a directional bias to have. And I hope in some cases that price allows me to, I guess, capitalize on those moves if I can and get that full move. But really, I'm only trying to get a small point out of that. And I'm really happy with this exit, as I mentioned, because this pullback was so steep. If I didn't jump out here, I probably would have jumped out here anyways, because we had increasing volume and that was a huge steep drop. So that's kind of where that trade went. And again, I exited because there was a level there and because I saw a lot of selling come into the chart, or the tape, should I say. And something that I want to discuss as well is at those points on the tape, I normally will start seeing still heavy buy orders coming in, but price isn't reacting. So I'm not seeing price increase. I'm seeing price stay where it is, even though we're having heavy buying come in. So that's when I start getting kind of a red flag, hey, I may need to exit this trade. And then what I wait to see on the tape is I start to see or wait to see if selling comes in. If aggressive selling starts to come in after we've had that absorption of those aggressive buys, that is when I'll get out of my position. And in this case, I did. And as you can see, that is such a good exit. To me, that's such a good exit. And I was so very proud of that one. So that was trade number 1. Number 2 was also on Tuesday, and it was this trade here. So the reason why I like this trade is because sometimes when I enter a trade one way and then exit, I automatically try and go the opposite way. Whereas this one, I really was kind of taking all aspects into consideration on the chart, and I read this drop, and as you can see, price was starting to drop. Volume started to drop on this pullback here, as you can see. And basically, when I drew up another level, so this 2-minute level from here to here, we can see that this was a discount level at 50%. And we've also got that aligning with the trend line that we originally drew earlier on in the session. So I had high confidence that we could possibly continue again to the higher frame 50% mark, which in this case, again, I entered on the tape read. And as you can see, the tape read helps you get such an accurate entry. And I'm just so impressed on my tape reading during this day. And I'm just really excited to see how I develop in that and get better at that in the future as well. But the entry was really good. Stop again below the 5-minute level we had below here. And basically, I was aiming for the 50% level up here. I sat through these drawdowns here, as you can see, and I was really happy with that. Now looking at it, I think what I could have done was I could have added, we did have a bit of a pullback here and a pullback here. Volume did show that it was dropping, so it wasn't likely to reverse. It was likely to continue. But I didn't add here. This could have been a very nice ad opportunity. But again, I don't want to overcomplicate too much right now whilst I'm still a very new trader. But let's actually go through here. So trade setup was good. We were coming off large 50% levels and had created another 2-minute leg. So that's what I'm talking about with this 50% discount. level that we measured off that 2-minute leg. Entry and exit. So entry was sniper again. I'm happy that I was able to be so quick to read the setup, as this was less than 4 minutes out of the previous trade. So the trade that we just reviewed, we're 4 minutes out of that one. So the fact that I was able to recalibrate, reread the situation and enter this still very sharply, I was really impressed with. My exit was okay. Personally, I think I could have held longer, but I was starting to think to take profit. It was getting late, so any signal I had to sell at the level I did. So we were at a bit of a level there, and again, I was getting late, didn't want a late night because I'm trying to improve my sleep, to improve my energy levels. So I took my profit. I was slightly nervous in this trade as I had jumped back in very quickly. So having to do that kind of gave me a bit of a rush, and obviously that nervous rush was definitely there, which is cool that I was able to pick up on that as well, and I guess be cautious of it. Basically something I've learned was I'm learning the tape a lot at the moment, and that is allowing me to get better entries and better exits, so I want to focus on that more. So again, I'm going to be making sure I'm carrying this experience through to next week. Ooh, okay, so let's go through the bad trades. Now, obviously there was a lot of bad trades. There was a lot of, revenge trading or just jumping back into same positions because I wasn't able to be flexible because I was tired and not focused through the day. So I'm not going to go through too many of those. I really want to discuss the bad trades that we can still take something from. And I think personally, if it's just a total trade that shouldn't have happened, we're not going to take much from those sorts of trades. But I want to talk about this one that we had on Monday. Now, you're probably looking at this and going, oh, I know exactly what was wrong here. I didn't take profit when I could have. I let it go to 2 when I could have been $100 up or whatever it was on this trade. So I let so much of my profit go back. But let's talk about the trade idea. Let's zoom out a little bit as we can see. So I had a 50% drawdown point here. So I kind of was expecting price to continue. You can also see we're on a bit of a downtrend naturally. So had a bit of a, I guess, bearish bias. Now, let's have a look at this one. So we had the leg come down here, and again, it was on rising volume. So I was really happy with this leg that we could see a little bit more down movement. So I've drawn up the discount level, and we have the discount level here. Now, what's really nice about this is I didn't rush into this trade. I exited at a very nice point, and I've got basically a trend line that also broke very soon after. So I used the tape obviously to enter, and my stop was above this level. A few good reasons for this trade. 30-minute, 50% below, so short bias. We had a shorter time frame, clear 50% move, which I'd like to note was on a pretty clear 5-minute leg with more than 4 candles. So we had a bit of a decent move basically. Entry was really good as it was heavy on volume on the tape at the break of the short-term trend line. However, the exit, I failed to acknowledge the buying volume stepping in at the support level. This is where I get a bit stuck because I draw my support levels up. Say, for example, I will have it marked up like this, right? So I don't mark it up where the wicks are. I'll mark it up where most of the spread is. And the problem when I mark up this level is that means my level would have been here. So I wasn't acknowledging this as much of a level. Could I have avoided that? Yes, because I would have been able to see where the volume was on my footprint chart, but I didn't acknowledge it in this trade. And regardless, I would have been able to see buyers and aggressive buyers starting to come in, or even sellers being absorbed at that level on the tape, and I just didn't acknowledge it. I was not flexible enough to get out of the trade. And the crazy thing is I was up 2R already. Like, that's a nice trade. That is a nice win. So a little bit of greed coming in there. So that's why I didn't like that trade. I definitely could have been much better with that. My emotions, my mindset after the session was very focused on making money back, that I got greedy and wasn't taking profits. Being rich was more important is what I said here. I need to focus on the process more, not the profits. In doing so, this trade could have made this day a profitable day because it wasn't a huge losing day, and this one being $100 win would have made this day profitable. So That's where we could have improved on that trade. Now, the second trade that I want to talk about is on Friday, and let's kind of go through that. So number one reason why this was the worst trade was because $72 for my account size and kind of what my typical loss should be based on what I've set for myself is too big. $72 is too much. The type of loss that I'm looking for is about 50, 60, that sort of area. And 72 is almost, half more of that. So it was too big of a loss, right? Now, something again that I mentioned earlier in the video is I didn't acknowledge the volume. So I didn't take all aspects of my, chart analysis when drawing up this chart. And it was really that I was trying to chase trades to get money back from the losing Thursday. So that's why that was, I think, one of my worst trades, because I didn't pick it right. I didn't analyze it correctly. And this kind of shows, what I mean when it comes to trading isn't just a strategy, because you could carry out that strategy perfectly, but there's different aspects or different nuances. Like, for example, on this leg, the volume was decreasing and not increasing, which could have told us that it was possibly not going to be a leg that I would want to draw up a 50% discount level on. Those sorts of things take time to learn with your strategy, right? So let's go down and see what this said. There technically is a setup here based on the 5-minute 50% and the 2-minute 50%. However, volume on the leg up was very weak, which should have meant this was not a setup. So something that I can take into next week. Stop placement was not good either. So I had stop placement here, which was above this level. Like, we have a level here. I should have been down here. Regardless, it would have been a loss, but still have to point that out, that I didn't follow rules. Only realizing that I was chasing trades due to the prior day. So I was eager to just find any sort of trade and not focusing on all components, just kind of being almost unrealistically optimistic towards trades just because I wanted a trade to take. So that was our week. Very emotional. It was a roller coaster, but let's talk about what things I want to be taking into next week so we can kind of review on that in the next week's video. So one is trading when we are not fit to trade. Actually just stepping away, taking a break for the night and having the strength to do that, knowing that this grind mentality is not going to work in trading. Number two is actually entering too early. I didn't actually show you in a lot of the trades that we went through, but something that I have been noticing is I'm entering a little bit too early and not being patient enough in my trades. For the most part, because of where I'm putting my stop, doesn't actually affect the win, right? But what it does do is it limits the amount that I win because my entry isn't as good as it could have been. So that's something that I want to be focusing on next week, and basically keeping my stops at the correct levels. So again, something that I didn't fit into all the trades that we went through, but I am trying to improve on where I'm putting my stop and making sure I'm following that every time. Sometimes it's a little bit wider than I would like it to be, and so I put it up, but that's obviously not the right way to do it. So I think as well, the reason why I don't like to always put the stop where it should go is because I'm entering too early. So it's kind of, they go hand in hand, and hopefully if I fix one, it should help the other, because I will naturally be happy to put my stop where it should be if I'm actually entering in the correct area. So guys, if you like that video, of course, leave a like, subscribe, comment, anything you like. Again, don't forget about the giveaway. And if you really enjoyed kind of seeing a little bit more of TradeZella and how it works, go ahead, click the link below, use the code Novice10 to get 10% off your first year, which is really cool. And hopefully maybe you can kind of join the journey and we can kind of share things together. And if you want to follow me on my socials as well, so I've got an X account, which I'm trying to post more on to hopefully connect with some of you guys out there, and also Instagram. I don't post too much on this one. This is kind of more of a personal Instagram, but X is probably where I'm going to be more trade focused. So that's probably the best place to actually go. But if you do want to follow me on those, links will also be below. All right, guys, that's it for this week. So happy trading, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.